Monday?
Alright.
Wait,
Hi.
wait, see, okay.
There's probably something in my box with me, or is there nothing
That's
in there?
great.
No. Discombobulated. Thanks, Paul, man.
Yeah, might be time for those to come down.
Oh, the things missing that was holding it up. Was it those little self?
Yes, yeah. They did dry out.
And with a headache, stomach's all upset, it's like almost.
Should I move over? I feel fine.
I can change that.
I know. I'm like, should I move over?
We finally got the Z back yesterday. Helped them to feel better.
You still, that's what I just said to him, you sound lovely. You know, Sherry went through it, she went through a double ear infections. And the stuff that they gave her took care of a lot of it, so then she went back to a regular doctor. And a regular doctor, so now you got a sinus infection. So she gave us, they gave her Z-Pack and that over the last few days, just cleaned it up. Just ridiculous. Just
Hello?
ridiculous. Hi, Laura.
No, my mom's keeping us home most of the time, so I'm not.
I'm
gonna
fine.
expose the germs.
That's okay.
Was it, she's, next to the rolling one.
Yep.
Now she's just complaining she doesn't have a couple walkers.
Oh,
I just go on Amazon every day and buy her accessories for the.
Yeah.
her walker.
Yeah, because she went
Accessory for a
from
walker.
the
I
regular
love it.
walker to the rolling one, now there's no couple. And
Ah,
I'm like,
I love
oh,
it.
for God's sake, I better get you a couple.
Yeah, no, take your drink.
Yeah,
But, hi.
hi, bud.
Friday, right?
I wish.
I wish.
no.
I'm always like, I've got things to do. It's not right.
Oh, that's all right, so mine, but I still, Friday would be okay.
You look a little tired.
Man, I'd be, yeah, we got a dog that's been having some mild seizures and,
Oh, no.
It's the worst.
yeah, north. The older two of the BCs, and they call them head tremors. And they're not, they're like 40 seconds long. You pick them up and hold them, just hold it, boom, they're gone. Doctors say they can come, they can go, they, you know. So,
We had a dog with that I literally didn't know what to do with.
Yeah.
And one of the vets I took him an alternative and now said, take him off any corn fed for the grain braid.
yeah, and we don't feed them any kind of grain fed food.
Yeah,
No, that was one of the things we checked.
We had a Rottweiler that would have was.
it's awful.
Yeah.
She had, I mean, to the point where
Yeah.
I mean, she was out of
When
it.
they're done, they're
And then when she came out of it, she didn't know anybody, she was on the walls, so she, like seriously,
Yeah. medicator.
yeah, we tried medication, because they kept raising the dosage, and she kept having.
Yeah, this is, he's had 2 in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and he has it. And the other day, they said exercise. Going out and tearing with the other dog, could bring him on. Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah, so he said, just keep an eye on it. He said, they're liable to just go away.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on them. So,
Sometimes it's pretty heavy
Yeah,
anti-seizure medicine, are expensive too, because it's not
Yeah.
covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not covered by insurance. She had her own little account over there at CVS. You got her prescriptions and everything.
I know.
It's like them calling me for my metformin. It's due. It's full of filled or whatever. You got 3 days to get it. And I got a bottle at home, stands about that tall, it's about that big around, full of metformin. It's like,
They're pushing those
Oh,
drugs. Yeah.
you know, come on.
How much more do I need?
No kidding. Okay.
Want a refill? Want a refill? He texts you all the
Oh my
time.
God,
Like, I'm
I'm
good.
twins.
You know, I'm not taking anything. I'm always going to the pharmacy and pick everybody else's medicine.
I get it all delivered in the mail.
Smart.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I should do
It's
that.
easier.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially with, I got CVS on my counter, you know, I knew the stuff that they got me, and I, you know, just.
Wait till your dad moves in. Your dad moves in and that's gonna take up the whole house.
So that'll be the liquor bottle.
There you go.
Believe it or not.
Swap one for the other.
One stop shop.
He's had one aspirin a day, and a cough syrup.
That's it? Oh, you're lucky.
That's it.
that is
Very
very.
That's
lucky.
it.
So is your dad with you now?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
You said April,
You
right?
don't know.
April.
Yeah.
So,
I thought maybe that's the way.
Yeah, March first.
oh, I thought it was April.
No, they gave us until March. No. They gave us till April first.
That's
That's
what
right,
you
the
said last time.
31st.
Yeah.
The 31st, which is fine.
Gives you more time to get things for.
Yeah, I just got the ramp to put out front. Once that's in, then we can move things.
Oh, you found one?
Well, I'm putting one together. Let's put it that way.
That's
My
right.
brother Terry absconded with a set of ramps from someplace. Who the hell knows where they can.
Oh.
But I can make them work, so that's what I'm gonna do for
That's
now.
all that matters.
Yeah.
All right, it's 5 o'clock, so we'll get our workshop started. Tom Zuber from Mengel Metzger Bar should be here soon to discuss and answer questions on the audit.
That's not on the agenda.
I know, I just said it, that wasn't one of my things that I put on the email, but
We can't do that legally.
you can listen to them.
We can listen to them.
We just can't accept the report,
Okay,
which we don't really technically need to do, but
Okay.
I'm gonna say, and I hate to start it out like this, but when
I
does?
totally forgot to put that on,
We don't even have an agenda for tonight.
No, because it's a workshop.
Well,
Yeah,
regardless, there
technically-
should be 72 hours for a public meeting. There should be a notice of what's in the workshop.
The
2 weeks
workshop,
ago,
we can just go by the agenda, we can just do the budget. And we cannot do any of this.
I was told that
That's fine.
we wanted to get somebody here promptly, so.
well, we did, but without an agenda, we're in violation of the open meeting laws and the ones that we agree on.
Not by the way this was advertised, but that's fine, we can wait.
Because it's any other business.
Well, if he's here, we're paying him, so we're gonna do it.
We'll
We
listen to
just
them and,
can't,
yeah,
Let's just do it that way.
well,
Get through. I understand what you're saying. I
Is it
understand.
gonna be recorded or no?
yeah, it's worth live streaming like every other meeting.
Okay, that's not on. I didn't know if anyone was on.
It's only because I didn't turn it
That's
on.
okay. So the presentation will be there in case people want to
yep,
go and listen.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
I mean, they're not here, but they can hear the replays, right?
All right, so let's start with the budget. We're on general.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was been in the other room.
I'll get it.
I
Stay there.
did the same thing.
This,
Okay.
What you sent, thank you.
good for my knees. I've been sitting all afternoon. Sitting home.
Some dogs, you can come on.
All right, regarding the tax cap. We can go up to $623,318. That includes some carryover from prior years that we can use.
I'm sorry, I'm not, where are we? We're just
I
looking
don't
at the
think, I don't think you have it.
Okay, no, I
So
see.
23 what?
623,318. We have based this budget that's in front of you on 600,000, which is the same assessment levy that we used for the current budget.
Oh, it's 598, wasn't it?
600.
It was 600 and what the document I saw, but
I think it says that on here. And one of the pages.
and that keeps the tax rate below $5. It's $4.8961. I don't know what the current tax rate is. I think it's 4.9.
Lori, it's on the first page of the revenue. Let's see. The 598 is from 2 years ago.
It was supposed to, last year when we made the motion, it was gonna be, to be the same as the year before.
That was
That was
21 to
tax rate.
22 though, right?
I think that was the tax rate.
I mean, it's 2 years. ago.
Right.
All right, so let's start in appropriations on page 1. So we have, similar to what we had with the other two budgets, we have $4,200 to pay the board. We have $2,000 to pay the mayor. In both those categories, we raised contractual a little bit because we are attending conferences and seminars that haven't historically been built into the budget. Again, those come before the board before we go, but we allocated some money there to
That's good.
be able to do that. The auditor, we raised $4,000. We don't have this year's bill yet, but we'll be getting that soon. Clerk treasurer, we raised to $46,000. In a non-public meeting, I'll share the percentage increase that I used that what happens is whatever the union contract says, everybody else gets. We will start meeting with the union late next month. And we'll see what they're asking for.
Who's meeting with you?
Matt, the attorney,
Okay,
and there's a new union rep this year. We have that.
okay.
Under clerk treasurer, we kept the equipment the same and we kept contractual the same. Under attorney, we raised that to more closely match what we're paying Matt. We left records management the same. Under buildings / village hall, we left $1,500 in there for cleaning of both the village hall and the community center. We haven't spent this year because we've been doing that ourselves. Under contractual, we put in $75,000, which I'm sure we could spend at least twice that. We know the water department's got some sill rot. We know there's work to do with the community center. I think there's still work to do with the firehouse. Our front door doesn't close anymore. So we raised it from 44 to 75. We've already spent 61 this year.
So that'll probably close out and that's whatever we had to spend.
We're over already.
We're over budget
We're
for
over
this
budget for
current
this
year,
one.
so we raised the
Sorry,
budget
yeah.
for next year.
But we don't have any specific projects in mind then.
The ones I just mentioned,
Okay.
but we don't have quotes.
Good,
That'll
right,
happen later, and something else will probably pop up.
Always does.
Special items is just insurance, and we raised that some. This is non-health insurance. Municipal dues, we left the same. Contingent, we left the same. Typically by the end of the fiscal year, that'll be gone.
And the contingent is for the purpose of, and
Accounts that are short.
Covers the
Okay.
village hall.
Bill, can you see who that is? Don? All right, so we'll resume at public safety. This is Tom Zuber, who's the partner from Greenville Metzger and Barr, whose team conducted our audit and our review. Everybody, I think, has a copy, right?
Right.
Here's an extra one. Anybody short? No, I don't. I'll make it.
You're making copies? Bill's, I'll get copies. I'll get you things.
It's not my
ordered.
first rodeo. See, it would be right. I just said it won't make it.
I get what you get. Thank you.
Else?
Yeah.
But I know where it's at.
No, I have. No, that's-
There's nothing,
Oh, yeah, do you not need it?
no,
She can do it. Computer. Bug, you have one, right?
I got a minute with me now.
Oh, okay. Just carry stuff everywhere.
Well, I was sure to see what we would be looking at tonight.
All right.
You want to walk through what was
Okay.
done?
Sure.
And on the questions?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Please.
Okay, I don't know how
You
you
sit right here.
come down, to. So as you know, we did perform what we call an agreed upon procedures. Okay, so, it's very similar. It's like an audit where we do some procedures very similar to an audit, but it's not a full-blown audit where you get a 60-page financial statement, right? Because that is a lot more work, costs a lot more money. So what we did was what we call an agreed upon procedures, which we identified, or the town or village had identified these specific procedures that we would go in, and this is something that many of our clients do, many of our smaller organizations do, where we identify specific peak procedures. And then we go in and we will say, okay, here's the procedure. How are you implementing this procedure? Or, for example, and if you look at the procedures, one item is we review your procedures, your internal control procedures, your checks and balances, right? And we make any procedural recommendations over the different internal control procedures, and we'll go through each one separately. Or we look at your cash collection process and we'll test a sample of cash that was collected and determine that you were following your procedures, or that all the appropriate documentation was there. So that's the intent of this agreed upon procedures. And then we issue a report, and the report is, here's the procedures we did, here are the findings. And then there are some recommendations that we did meet with management and did review the recommendations as we went through and reviewed these transactions. So that is the process we went through. Okay. And so the detail we went through with management in terms of the specific check numbers and so forth and whatnot. Generally, we wouldn't put those in this type of report. Okay. But we did review that with management, and I made some notes and have some information if you have questions on some of the items.
I sent
Okay?
you a list of my questions, so you'll be hitting on those, or what, to pull that up.
Well, you probably, I
Okay.
I made notes on the report, and I can
Okay.
kind of make, why don't I just walk through each
Okay.
one and make a couple comments on it? And then you can certainly ask questions or follow up on any of those questions, okay? So the first procedure was just, again, kind of reviewing some of the basic internal controls that you have out there. And again, you're a smaller organization. You have pretty good checks and balances for being a very small organization. So I think that's, something we did note, but we did talk a little bit about a couple of the items that we noted. One being, having a separate computer to do online banking. Okay, now you do have a separate computer that when you receive checks in the mail and checks over the counter, you process those transactions through this computer, and those deposits go to the bank. But the wire transfers, like if we wanted to move money between my savings account, we would do it on the same computer that we typically do our emails on. Okay, and so what we're recommending is that since you already have this nice separate computer that nobody touches except for banking, and there's no email or anything, so there's no risk of somebody shadowing an email or getting, okay, so using this separate computer to actually make the online banking transactions. Okay, in fact, that's probably one of the best things you can do to enhance the checks and balances, and I think the village has already implemented that
Tracy, how hard
process.
is that for you to do? It says it complicates things. So. That's good.
Yeah, and it's nice because they already had his computer all set up. It's just, it was just being used to process the cash receipts. So we just recommended enhancing, and utilizing that. So, okay. And then the other item was just, again, anytime you're making transfers between bank accounts, having kind of some type of secondary review and authorization process, you know. So again, how you do that, whether you, you know, develop a process to document how those transfers are being made. So if Tracy makes the transfer, then the other person in the office kind of signs off or checks the box that said, you know, I reviewed this wire transfer. The mayor acknowledges that wire transfer has been made or acknowledged. Okay, so those were the two items there. Again, very minor procedural item to just try and enhance some of the different checks and balances that we have.
So what are we doing to remedy that? The program mayor signed off on it after you moved that.
So, yeah, I mean, payroll works like that anyway.
Right.
But then anything else, like for the bill pay, we just have to.
And if Dave wasn't here, then you'd go down the chain. Thank you.
And for bill pay, I do sign a document that shows these are all the bills we paid for the board meeting. But I don't see that compared to the transfer.
So this will be anytime there's money moved from one account.
One bank to another account bank, in between a money market and a savings, interest rates are popping back up. So maybe you do some CDs. So, you know, you move money from a savings account into a CD, you know, that's a transaction on the book. It's moving into a different account. So it's those types of items. Okay.
So we're gonna have that for everything, Dave or somebody's inside.
Yeah, and you can develop a form, or when Tracy does the journal entry, it's a matter of just printing the journal entry and having someone acknowledge it. Okay. You have other securities over the banking and stuff like that. So, you know, this is just that paper process. Okay.
So it's checking it off again when it's reconciled into.
Well, again, when the reconciliation is done, that's usually 30 days later, right?
Right.
So this is just more of a real-time kind of check and balance or something in that line.
Say somebody else saw it happen.
Acknowledging, yeah, I'm aware of this, so.
Is
All right.
it the normal amount of time for a small business to have more than 30 days? Like we get the December statement in the middle of January. Is that about?
Oh, that's typical, yeah.
It's about 30 days out.
Well, it depends. I mean, you can get online and look at it, you know, the bank statements whenever they're available, but you know, if, I don't know, do you still get them mailed or do you print them
She's talking
electronically?
about the financials, like it closed.
Oh, yeah, I would think, you know, it all depends on what you have going on during the month. So, you know, your treasurer's reports and stuff like that. I mean, usually if you're looking at a December, you know, obviously December is going to take a little bit longer because there's a lot of information at the end of the year that they're doing. They're going through the annual update document, processing those transactions. So December usually is a little bit later than other
May.
months. And then obviously, I'm sorry, May.
May.
Where are we? I've been in a few towns lately in counties, so, but yeah, so the May transactions, you know, so I would expect that to be a little bit later. That's not unusual when it comes to those transactions, but you know, I think what we recommend, if you have something that's let's say 2 months late, that might be a point in time where you say, hey, what's going on with the May bank statements or the May bank reconciliations, right? It's asking the right questions. And so, and there could be a perfectly logical answer, right? I know, you know, there's always, you know, unusual things that go on, but it's just asking the right questions at the right time. Okay. All right. Any other questions on that piece of it? Okay, so the second piece we looked at was the cash receipts. So again, we reviewed the process of your cash collection. Okay, and then for the different receipts, we looked at you know, what kind of receipts or documentation you had to document the money coming in the door. You know, whether it was collected and deposited timely, the coding of the transaction, as well as how are the amounts posted to the cash receipts journal? And again, you have a very good process with that, and we didn't have any findings as it relates to the cash collection process, okay? We then looked at the cash disbursements, okay? And, obviously you probably have a lot more activity on the cash disbursement side, the purchasing side of things. So again, you have processes and procedures in place, you have policies and procedures that you're following, and we look for kind of what we call the key controls. What are the types of things that are the most important to that transaction flowing through the system? Okay, and so they're just listed there. So I forget the number of transactions, maybe 25 or 30 transactions we actually tested. And there was only one item that we noted in that testing where there was a purchase order for a transaction, but it just wasn't signed. Okay,
Which is
so I just wanted to
garden
get
club.
next. Yep, so it was for a garden, nursery garden services, so about $2,400.
So it wasn't signed. That's
Mm-hmm.
much different than what it reads to me.
Approved. Yeah, it says approved.
Not been approved, so there was a purchase order that wasn't the approved purchase order, you sign it. So that's just the way that we discuss it.
Okay,
You said you've had 30 transactions?
25 or so. I can't remember exactly how many we looked at. I'd have to go back and open up my file. I don't recall. So, okay, so there was one transaction relating to the disbursements that we looked at as it related to that. We can kind of continue on with the disbursements, just if you flip to the next page, and we'll come back to the payroll piece. And look at procedure 6, because in addition to the normal procurement, we also take a look at like the bidding and quoting as it comes to the different purchases that you're making. So these are the larger purchases we're talking about. And what kind of process and procedures do you have for publicly bidding an item, right? And again, from the items we tested, I think we only had 4 items that were pretty minor as it relates to the findings. I think we had 2 written quotes. We looked for the written quotes that your procurement policy requires, and or if it was above a certain threshold, whether you publicly bid the items. And I think we had 4 instances where the quoting thresholds were met, but we didn't see the required number of quotes to document compliance with the policy. You either didn't have them or you did it, but you just didn't document it. So what it is just enhancing the process you go through to document how you're meeting your procurement policy. Okay, so that's something internally that you have to kind of develop on, how does it best work for this village? Is it you send all the quotes in with the bill and keep them all together and staple them in your file? That makes the files a lot bigger, whether they're maintained in the department and you have to rely on them. So when someone wants to look at it, you got to go out to the department and look at those procedures. So kind of have to develop that, whatever works best for the village. And one of the things that you could do for this is, and because again, I know that we met with management and kind of reviewed and discussed corrective actions, you could develop that and the management could come back and say, okay, for each of these findings, here's our corrective action. That way you can kind of document what you decided to do or what management decided to do to implement the corrective action. But again, procurement, we see, minor things that happen in the procurement process on a regular basis, even at our largest clients, or even, at any client, it's very unusual not to identify some type of hiccup when it comes to the procurement process. Okay, again, nothing was unusual, but again, it's just a communication that, hey, these were the transactions we looked at, and where we didn't see the items, and again, they range from, I think there was a furniture, some fire station furniture. There was a farm and home supply was one of them. Your fireworks was one. Although you have limited resources or availability for the fireworks. That was something that here's your policy, is what it says. you just only had the one vendor respond, or, so even if it's a matter of documenting, hey, we called this fireworks company and we called this fireworks company and they didn't respond. That's
works.
documenting that, okay?
And
So,
that's what we have to, so.
Yeah.
That's what we guys.
yep, so it's just a matter of things like that. Again, I didn't bring my readers, so, that's right, and then there was, I can't remember what this is, Uline, it's something with. So again,
No, I just might be a pair of readers in this building.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but again, it just didn't have a purchase.
You remember
Okay.
that
What?
one? It was, it had to do with the capital project.
The Uline, yeah, I can't remember.
Probably for the do.
Yes, that was one where we did, because we ordered that through Uline, as we have an account, but we just got other quotes online. We just didn't reference that that's what we,
Mhm.
the other quotes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's probably a good practice is to say, okay, here, put it in your policy, or put it in your response, or put it in some type of a written business office policy that when we document, or this is how we're going to document our verbal and written quotes, okay? And, hey, we've looked at them and we're going to indicate we looked at them and throw them away.
Sometimes we, like, for instance, Brad was one, so he does the research and he houses it there. And so then, that's the one that he provides and that's what we go with, so that's one of the things that we, because the other one was.
So we're just gonna
The
do
mower.
it now.
So-
So going forward, is that,
So I guess, so if that's what you want us to do, he'll have to provide all, whatever he does and put that.
Well, I would say
It
that,
makes sense to have it here.
Because
Yeah,
right now,
from an audit perspective,
he
it does
houses
too,
it.
right?
there,
You have it,
so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we requested it and then they didn't have it, so that's why it's finding, but.
so, let me make sure I get this right. Okay.
Sure.
If I decide that I'm going to go out and build a playground, which
Mhm.
we are talking about,
Mhm.
and we've had about 5 different vendors that we're looking at. We have the right to choose the best vendor out of those 5. It doesn't have to be the lowest bid. Is that correct?
So,
Yes.
Right.
so
We do
you have
that
to,
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
But we have to have
and
that.
then you would have to have,
Reason why, yeah.
we would have to have the vendor list of who we had contacted and what their cost is.
And depending on the cost, it's probably gonna have to be bid out, so
Mhm.
let's say our proposals. And then we don't have to pick the lowest one, we have to pick the one we think will do the best job. But we have to document why we think they'll do the best job for
That's
the
what-
lowest.
You know how, like, and
Keep the books.
when Bob Elliott, like, the engineers, they'll do that for us. And then they always provide you guys with that list, that kind of
That's
summary
the best.
of
So
what
that's
they've done.
what
Because
they'll
they
do.
usually do the
And this
research.
company that we're hiring,
Should do the same thing.
yeah, so there's different municipal laws out there and you can, what you're referring to is best value. So the first threshold is your procurement policy, right? Do I need to get written or verbal quotes? Second threshold is what general municipal law says. If it's over $20,000 for materials and supplies, it's got to be publicly bid or on a state contract or county contract. And if it's a public works contract, anything over 35,000 has to be publicly bid or purchased off a county or state contract. Okay, but when in your decision-making process, you evaluate the proposals or the specs, and you would go off basically like a best value is what most folks will document, but it's how you document that. Okay.
good to know. Thank you.
Mhm. So again, those 4 items, again, very minor, as it came to the audit or the testing we did. Okay, so I just wanted to hit those 2 procedures because those both related to procurement. Again, if you go back to payroll, which is procedure 4, okay, again, looking at different employees of the village. Okay, so procedure 4, again, you have different processes and procedures in place place as it relates to payroll. And you can see the different items that we looked at or tested as we went through the process. And again, I think you do a very good job over the payroll processing here. And then we didn't have any exceptions to the payroll testing we did. So, which is very, very positive.
And now, does that include 1099 workers then? Does that go through their payroll?
No. 199 companies.
So what is the
1099
rule in
is not
regard to that kind of situation
So
where we
that-
hire people?
So 1099, so that would be when that would be just another process to look at.
Was one of the procedures they were.
Okay. Well, for next year, that'd be a good one to look at.
Yeah, we can, if that's what you.
So
would like us to
we can
do.
target those. I mean, this is great,
Yeah.
but that's.
There might be other areas.
That
Right.
doesn't look. 1099 because it doesn't.
Yeah, it's,
Through payroll.
flows through your
Right.
cash disbursements process, and it's
Yeah.
usually for individuals that are providing services. So, yeah. And Tracy does go through a process where she reviews the system, and it probably produces a list of vendors, right, that were paid over $600, and then you provide the 1099s. So that's the way that most of the software is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the accounting does that for you. Okay, good.
Mhm. Okay, so the next area we looked at was the bank reconciliation process. Okay, again, looking at a test month of January, and we looked at the month of May. Okay, and again, the January, the bank recs were perfect. May, the bank recs were very, very good. There was just one transaction that, and what happened, and this does happen sometimes, is the bank reconciliations were done, okay, and reconciled, but then a journal entry was done. And that changed the balances because it was a transfer between a couple of cash accounts, I think. And so that changed the one bank rec. So when we looked at the bank reconciliation and compared it to the general ledger, it was off by the exact number identified on the bank rec. So it's just a matter of making sure you redo the bank recs when you have additional journal entries. And again, that was at year end. So it was a year end transaction that happens, which is typical, right? They say the longest day of the year is May 31st for most organizations. For businesses, it's December 31st, but that's not unusual with many organizations. The books stay open, so you make sure you capture all of your transactions at the end of the year. And it's just a matter of circling back and following up. So, but it was very clearly identified. So if, where we would have a concern is if we look at the bank reconciliations and it says that we're reconciling to a number, we don't have any idea where that number's coming from, right? That would be the concern, but this was very straightforward. Here's what the difference was, and here's where the number was. We could see it right away. Okay.
A lot of times with those, so Melanie does, she'll take the bank statements, she reconciles, and there are a lot of entries that I do myself, and so if they're listed, and then I did the entry, but then just didn't check,
Yeah,
just didn't
but
check
it balanced, so it was okay.
So that's a lot of times what happened, because she, and then when I go to close out, I do those entries, so
Mhm.
it just changes.
Yeah, and it's usually going to only happen really at the end of the year. So it's just a matter of going back and this thing. So, but again, it was we identified it, we could see it, it was right there. But the way this process is here's the procedure, here's what the findings are. Okay. So that's what that communication was. But again, not significant at all. Okay. We talked about the bidding procedure 6. And again, procedure 7, just the inventory records. And again, what we typically do is we try and look at your printouts, what you're documenting your assets are. And we'll compare them to your insurance listings, because every now and then, there's some minor differences or some differences, but and again, sometimes it's just timing, right? You buy a new backhoe and it hasn't been put on the listing yet, or hasn't been taken off the listing yet if you sell a backhoe, or you bought a new vehicle and you have to take the old vehicle off the insurance listing and put the new vehicle on, right? So it was just a matter of those types of items. So when we looked at the inventory, I think there was one vehicle that was on the fixed asset listing. That wasn't on the fixed asset listing or the insurance listing. It was a cat from the highway department. I think it was something that you just bought, right? So, or bought during the year. So it's just a matter of getting those inventories updated. The other item was a vehicle on the insurance listing, but wasn't on the fixed asset listing. So there was a Ram
Was
vehicle.
it the same replacement vehicle then that happened with their?
That would Ram, that would have been.
Yeah. So that was a van, yeah, the Ram van, I guess.
Just wasn't on fixed. It was according to fixed.
Yeah. So it was added to your insurance coverage, but it wasn't added to the vehicles on your fixed asset listing.
So,
Okay.
so then did we end up having,
Because I wonder if that was just, because that would have been water. I wonder if the tap was water. Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking. Might have just, but not been in
In the
right
tab.
tap. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Up to check.
Yeah.
oh, because it's 3 different accounts.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
have
have
fire
tap.
department.
Did you review the water and sewer parts
Mhm.
of the,
Yep, the cash collection and cash. Yep, deposit process. Yep, we spent some time in there. Okay. And then the third item was the vehicle wasn't on the insurance listing, but it was on the fixed asset listing, but it had been disposed of. So you just didn't take it off the fixed asset listing. So, so all of these were vehicles that were town vehicles. If it wasn't a town vehicle, the comment would have been worded differently. Okay. These are just reviewing the insurance company to your fixed assets. And the reason we do that is every now and then we'll see something on an insurance listing that's been gone for 5 years and it just was an oversight, right? So usually you can go back and adjust let the insurance company know and they refund it for you. It's not that big of a deal, but I don't necessarily I think these were just timing issues.
And
So-
they, based on this. I think we have every year for review. They send us the asset listing. So
Mhm.
we try and go through the insurance.
Mhm.
Just to make it to the
Mhm.
spreadsheet.
Yeah, and we were looking at the most current listing, so I think it was dated June 1st, 2022. So that's kind of should capture everything that you purchased during the year. So, and again, if it's something that's on the listing that you just haven't deleted off the listing yet, and you've got a lot of time to deal with that. So, okay. But again, very minor items relating to that. Then again, the last item just relates to the accrual items in your annual update document. And again, you guys are, with many smaller organizations, you're really following kind of that cash basis on your annual update documents. It makes sense. It's easy to follow. You're still doing your bank reconciliations and stuff, but so that's just the communication here that you're following kind of like a cash basis.
rather than,
Well, yeah, like we could, or you could have asked Tracy to, identify anything that you're collecting in June and July that relates to May, and then
Right.
she has to do a journal entry to book a receivable, and then
but
record
at
the
this rate,
revenue.
it
And
makes sense to just pay it in each year that you're paying it. It kind of all buffs out.
yeah, I think it does. I think it's just a matter of, you have a good process in place.
Right.
I think you're doing a fine job with it. If it's something the village wants to do or move in that direction, we can certainly work with Tracy on that, or she's very capable of doing that. So it's just a matter of being available if she has questions. But yeah, many smaller organizations kind of do their annual update documents this way. So I don't think there's anything unusual with a small village doing what you're doing. Okay.
The, in going to that, the 30 days, so you're saying that we should probably, unless it's the end of the season or Christmas time, which we give a little on that, it should be about 30 days for the bank recs. So
Yes,
they're up to date.
well, again,
That's
so I
reasonable.
don't know when your meeting dates are, they, the end of
Yeah.
the month?
No, third week.
Third week, so
So-
we're always a month behind, but that's probably because of the third week. I'm
Correct.
thinking.
Yeah, so if you
So
might not
it's-
get, so if we're in what, maybe we're just February. So yeah, March is, so if you didn't get the March one until some April, I wouldn't think it would be unusual,
Okay, yeah. we're
right?
doing okay.
Because, you know, you get the bank statements in mid-month and then you reconcile them and make any other adjustments. So I would think that would be kind of standard practice.
Is there anything that you saw that did you do any of the minutes, checking any of that kind of thing, or policies were
Yeah.
covered with the one?
Yeah, we looked at the different policies and procedures that we
minutes or
identified.
anything.
I can't remember. I have to go back and look in the file if we read through the minutes. I don't think we did, but that's not necessarily anything.
That
we
can
would-
be next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, we wouldn't really identify anything financially inappropriate through
No.
the board minutes. So
Right.
there really wouldn't be a financial reason to do that, okay? If we're doing an audit, then maybe there's a reason to kind of read through those and stuff like that, but yeah, I think that, but again, we might have, I just don't remember it. Without, we'll go back and look at the files, so, because are they on your website?
Mm.
Okay, so if we do, we usually just download them from clients' websites and read
Yeah.
them, so we might not have even requested them. We did, but I don't recall, I don't think we typically do, or it would say it in here if we actually did read the board minutes. But again, I don't necessarily know what financial benefit we would be able to tell you from reading the board minutes.
Right.
Okay, maybe you'd have an attorney come in and say our board minutes in compliance with what the law says.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think I would be
Okay.
versed in the law to be
Okay.
able to say that.
Training, did you see anything that we should probably be working on as far as training with the accounting?
Well, I mean, I'm sure Tracy would welcome any training. I mean, we, I think, there's always training because everything is changing
It
each and
is.
every year. It's getting more and more complicated. I think, again,
I agree with
you
that.
do a very good job with the staff that you have in here, considering how complicated things have gotten. over the
And
past few
how
years.
much staff would you say? You must know a little bit about that on organization of the side.
Well, I think you're doing a good job with your staff.
You don't think we need more?
Well, I mean, more would give you better checks and balances, but again, you have to weigh that as a management and
Right.
as a,
Awesome.
but again, what I've seen the trend over the years is there's all kinds of all these new financial reporting requirements, grants, things like that. Again,
Mhm.
but I haven't seen many business offices. So,
Yeah.
they
They just keep
the
jumping.
schools, the counties, and they have 10 new reports that they have to do in the past 10 years, and I haven't seen a business office grow.
I agree with
So,
that.
but with the training, I think,
No idea. We're getting a fax from 1981.
That is what it sounds
We did it.
like.
and there is some good training out there. I'm sure Tracy would love to go to Albany for the GFOA training. There's a nice governmental training in Las Vegas for people, I'm sure,
Yeah.
But no, I think there's some good training out there if that's something that
Because I know you said
folks
that
are
you
looking
did
for.
things like that.
We're always available if Tracy has questions on anything, we're pretty much open. She calls me with a question, we can walk her through whatever, we need or she needs. If it's something more complicated and we come out, we'll talk to you about that, but that would be, something a little different. But no, I think, again, I think you're doing fine with the size, and the staff you have.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Good job. Great job.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
sure.
Thank you.
Any
Thanks
other
for coming.
questions?
No, thanks for coming out here.
No, no problem. Sorry, I was a little late. I had trouble getting out of my office, which seems to happen. And then so where my office is, there's a bus stop and it's a roundabout.
Nice.
So if the bus stops when you're coming out of the parking garage, you're not going anywhere. So, and people take their time getting off the buses and stuff
They're
like
tired.
that. So.
It's like the right of the bus.
It's the kids, it's the yellow school bus. And the kids, they don't get off the bus very quickly
I don't
sometimes.
get out of it.
No, that's true. So, all right, well, if you have any other questions, like I said, I'll be happy to, come back and chat with anybody on
Okay.
anything, but.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome. All right, have a good day.
They were, you too.
All right, we'll go back to the budget and into public safety. First item was police, that really covers traffic or parking enforcement. $5,000 assumes that we have a parking enforcement person for 20
Okay, I just have to get back there. I got my stuff.
for 20 hours a week, May through September.
I know this is what you have here, but I think we really need to look at the police situation again. With everything that's going on, the increase of visitors, problems we have getting help with things from the state police, everybody. We're not getting what we need. And things are running astray. And I don't know if this is a place where you put up a referendum or what you do. I called Sodas Village to see what they had in their budget, how they were handling it. Their budget runs about 75,000 for a part-time weekends and specific days, 2 part-timers.
I was gonna say that was Cypher.
And so the job sharing program and things like that. I called 3 different organizations, I think it was a couple weeks ago. Getting somebody on a 1099, and I'm not sure that's rough. It's that's a lot more costly than owning somebody on a 1099.
Yeah, and the insurance, there's a,
There's a lot of research that needs to go into it because New York State has new police department requirements, which was the reason why our department went away. Because the training and the insurance requirements and the equipment requirements were tens of thousands of dollars.
Is there any way to have a police officer that detailed from the sheriff's department where we all said?
We can certainly talk to the sheriff about having more coverage. Unfortunately, they don't have enough people either. I mean, every police department has too many openings.
We can't do
For a
private.
whole variety of reasons.
and going along with this, I was told, and I don't know, I haven't had a chance to get down and look at it. I was told there was a referendum and a resolution that had passed prior to my becoming the board, that we are in fact supposed to have resurrected the police department as of now, and we just haven't done it.
There was a referendum passed and we couldn't hire anybody. So it went by the wayside.
We couldn't,
And
and
then
then
we-
as to why, we just couldn't find somebody, a candidate.
Because not a lot of people want that kind of a position. It's just a part-time position, it's
What
seasonal.
was advertised is what we were used to, which is the weekend days through the summer.
Okay,
Which is
The other thing that I think the way that goes, I'm not sure what the answer is, but I know that we're not getting enough at this point.
I think the answer is start with a meeting with the sheriff.
Yeah, and to go back to the referendum, that referendum was clear as mud. Whoever drafted that, half the people thought that they didn't
vote for
vote for it, and the other half thought they had.
Yeah.
And then it went one way, and you still weren't sure whether it passed or not. It was a very poorly written draft. And
That whole thing was just not done well.
no, it wasn't, and for whatever reason. I think Matt could probably write a much better one.
And one of the other things we ran into when our old PD was here as well, is there were things that we would have liked them to do and they just didn't want to do that. I mean, get off, go down, talk to people, be around, do this, do that. And in the end, they just, that's not what we don't want to do that. And that's when we went to try and hire the next group, when we went with the referendum. And you just couldn't get people that, if you try to, you try to get young people and they're in that service and they're going, I work 60 hours a week now. I don't want anything like that. David and I, we've talked a couple of times. We've got a couple of guys that have retired or in the process, one from the village of Sodas. And then we've got a sheriff that just retired that showed a little interest in possibly doing it. But in order to do that, we need to, like David says, we need to sit down with the big wig over there and say, okay, this is what we want to do. What would you suggest? I mean, if it's just parking, taking care of that stuff and walking the streets and be public service, well, that's what we need to find out. But you're right. The last time it was done, there were so many glitches that were thrown in that it just got so frustrating, because when somebody came in and said, well, what's the job entail? And you gave them some idea. It's like,
It didn't even have a clear job.
yeah, right.
Well, and a couple people that we did interview and did reference checks came back horrible.
Oh.
I mean, it was, we literally couldn't find anybody that would enhance the village.
Yeah.
Parking enforcement officer isn't gonna solve all of that, but if we are fortunate enough to find somebody and that person is either a current or past law enforcement officer, just the presence of somebody walking around looking official will help a lot.
Yes.
For sure.
Just
So that's-
just an FYI, I will be enrolled in the spring semester. So if that's going to go forward.
Lovely. They're going to give you a gun?
I haven't done it. Thanks for asking.
So why?
I have seven.
You're going to,
I'm going to take,
The security.
yes, police sciences, political sciences.
at MCC,
What's that?
at MCC?
Yeah, I'm going to do some MCC.
I got my associates in criminal justice.
Yeah.
There you go. Another job for you.
Yeah. Well, if we get to that point, obviously, that's the thing, and I already have a federal background check, and it's like, I need to state if I can pass any. I would be willing to circumvent a lot of things and help the village in whatever aspect that be at the minimum state requirement.
So, I mean, I knew that when I went, it was a while ago, there were different characteristics or levels, so peace officer versus police officer.
I'm
With
sure.
less requirements on a peace officer, which may be a better fit. for us.
Right, and I obviously, I know somewhat of that, but it's not crash that I know everything, so
That might be
I'm a
the
day with
conversation that
Too
we
late,
should have with the sheriff.
Too late.
Yeah, and we need to understand the requirements of.
I'm doing anything. absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's
Because what I was told by the last sheriff, he point blank said, you'd be an idiot to reestablish your police department. You will add over $100,000 to your budget and you won't get what you.
I think a peace officer is maybe.
And I think you're right there, because I only ever saw the guy that we had riding around in his car. I never really talked to him or anything.
And often his wife was with him, or girlfriend or whatever.
So that's where we're at anyway.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
a good start. At least we know.
So
you got
we're not
what
going to
direction
put
you
any
got.
additional money in this section, or what are we thinking? 'Cause right now we have to think about.
If you were to get one of the 1099 things going, and let's say we made that deal with the sheriff instead of the police or the state police, maybe you make it with the state police, I don't know. But if in the school districts, we could get police assigned for 6 or 8 hours a day. And I think that they should be starting to look at something like that. If they're gonna put all these restrictions on police and having security guards, then it seems like it would be their.
Well, I think
role to-
school is very different
Well,
than a village, certainly. We have the ability to establish a police department if we're willing to add the expense to our budget.
I don't,
But we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
We need to understand our options. So at least my suggestion would be, let's set up a meeting with Melby. I'll let everybody know what it is, so if you want to come, you can come. We'll hear what he has to say and then start to explore some options.
Right.
And I will do what you asked about Aaron DeSanto. I tried to get a hold of him today and I'll get his contact information for you. And you can, because Aaron DeSanto just retired from the sheriff's department and I saw an email, he was flapping his chops on, saying goodbye to everybody. And I emailed him back and said, talking about putting somebody on the point for, I called him up, just, walking the streets and writing tickets. And he said, really? And I texted him back and he said, might be something I'm interested in. So, there's another start with some looking
Sure.
for just a little something extra.
So through the years also, there's paperwork through the years, because obviously of having police, not having police, it's been a forever. And there's records where we've basically had a mutual aid kind of an agreement. One time it was through Lions, one time it was through, and so that's maybe something to consider again. Like, I think you were kind of what you're saying with the.
We did talk to Solis about that a couple of years ago.
We
Yeah, he
tried
said
it,
it.
so,
He said it
but it's
was
just,
not man.
that's.
I asked him,
That's
please
what we
share.
run into.
In the previous budgets that we had, when we did have a police force, what happened to the funds that were in the budget? Where did those funds get dispersed to that we used to pay the police force?
They just didn't.
Where did
put it in.
money go? I mean, we used to have X amount.
It's on some other line. I think the last one I remember was $20,000. But I don't know that that's true.
I actually think if you think like that, that's
I was
probably
gonna
about
say
right.
20.
Yeah.
Like 16 or 20.
It was really
It was just for weekends.
just
Yeah, but I'm saying, what bucket did we dump that money into? After the police force was no longer here, where did the money go? Where
It
were
just
we
got-
allocating that money?
it just got spread out
Yeah.
wherever we needed it that next
In
year.
essence, got shot, not shot down, but we couldn't fill it. So
I think there was only 1 year when there wasn't anything in here at all.
Yeah.
It was zero budgeted. But
if you set up something with Milby, try and do it between 10 and 12. Because at least I know I'm available that way anyways,
Okay.
but
Yep,
I don't have to be here, that's for sure, but
no, I
it
think
would be neat. It would be neat.
That'd be good to know.
So we're gonna leave this kind of open until you have that conversation,
Yeah.
and you can explore it a little. And go back to this number
Going into March.
before we close
Which
everything
is-
out. Right? We have another meeting set, right?
no, not yet.
Oh, we don't.
We'll have
Okay.
tonight.
I don't know, I mean,
If
the 16th is our next board meeting, which really doesn't, right?
yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Which doesn't really give us a lot of zing time to try to get Milby over here and talk to him.
No.
I don't know if you want to plan on April.
I don't
Or-
expect, I don't
or a
expect to get this resolved.
or a
before
second
the April
meeting.
board
Saturday.
Well, what if we put the 25,000 back in that budget?
Unless somebody takes the onus of it and does the legwork, in fact, the figure way before it's time.
But we need we need all the requirements.
Yeah,
Yeah, first.
Somebody's gonna have to chase that out. They want it in there.
I will try to set up a meeting with Milby as quick as possible, quick as he can.
Okay. Cool.
Under contractual, there's $2,000 in here for whatever it takes to set up. This is based on parking enforcement. One of the good things about hiring a current or past cop is they know the process.
Yeah, that's true.
It would be set up for us pretty automatically. You
Yeah.
probably just have to buy some tickets.
there's another question there. I don't see any. We're writing tickets. It's going to Sodas Town Court. Correct. We don't have a town.
Yeah,
court.
if,
No.
but.
And then we have to turn
Right.
right back then to get the money back to us.
Yeah, there's a process.
How's
But they acknowledge that money is ours, as long as, it depends on how the ticket's written. Ticket has to be written explicitly against Village of Sodas Point Code 123.
Okay, and
If
what's
it says that, then there's no art.
all right, and what
We also-
percentages
We
are
also talked,
standard give to the surcharge or whatever to the court?
you know how places where you go, like, I mean. It's my. They put a ticket with an envelope right on your windshield, and so we had talked about that too, where.
Yeah,
they-
that's
that-
exactly what
that-
I want.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Not sure,
Yeah, because
I
most
don't
of
wanna
the
go to court, they can just come here and pay the fine.
But most of the stuff's not gonna be a ticket, it's gonna be a points ticket, it's gonna be a financial ticket or whatever you want to call it.
I did.
That's how I do it, you know, with all paper.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you know, we're setting this up and we're looking at that. You know, is there a surcharge, a court fee that the town of Sodas charges us for processing that versus should they fight it and go to court and all that?
They haven't. I think in the time I've been mayor, they paid us for one ticket for a code.
That's it?
And I don't believe there was any surcharge. There is a state surcharge that we don't.
Yeah, right.
So when they were writing all these tickets down here, Sodas Point hasn't been getting any
Very, very
revenue.
rare. Very
But
rare.
there's an agreement that they're supposed to give it to us.
If the ticket is written, it depends on how the officer writes a ticket. And because,
Well, there's the first.
Because it's written town of Sodas.
well, some of it's DWI, which is a state code, not a village code. I don't know about speeding, because a lot of that is state prescribed. Some, I mean, we have our own speed signs, but they're at state miles per
Right.
hour. So I don't know who, I think that's, vehicle and traffic. I don't think we get that. The one I remember we got was a code enforcement.
Third man.
Which probably, which mostly don't get, mostly the people end up not being fined by them.
It's definitely a good idea, Tracy, to pay it here.
Yeah, it does.
Yes,
We just,
It
you know,
really does.
for the new town,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that this is one of my concerns. And I asked that question a little bit baited because I know somebody that got a speeding ticket right on the loop. Okay, right on the loop. He
Does
earned
that
it,
even
he
happen?
earned it 42, going by Jack's doing 40 miles an hour. He earned every second, of it. He even said that. But he paid a parking ticket
Maybe
when he went to court. He paid a
Are
parking
you
ticket.
kidding?
No, they do that all the time.
No, that's,
He paid $125 parking ticket. But here's the thing, that parking ticket obviously went to the, so never made it here.
Yeah.
That money should be coming here, so this is where
Right.
our own,
So we have to get some agreements. with
our own
Sodas.
piece.
the agreements are all in place.
Well, there's-
We need to audit them and
Okay.
push them. Because why do the work if nobody is gonna come after us?
Right.
So.
Okay.
When we know there's a ticket written, most of the time we don't, we can go ahead,
Right, they'll have a number on it and they should be able to track it.
so. All right, so we'll leave that at 5,000 and 2,000 for now. We'll potentially adjust later if we need to, or we'll just work on it for the next year, change it next year. And then what happens. Fire department. There's $10,000 in equipment, which is consistent with their requests and what they've been spending. Contractual is up to $32,100, which reflects the additional $3,000 the town of Sodas gave us for the fire department. They are, just so everybody knows, they're looking for a new boat. That will cost upwards of $300,000 or more. I've asked them for the specific information they're looking for because I'm going to ask Schumer's office to buy it. It's a member directed item, by a long shot, but can't hurt to ask. And they need those things, they need those requests in the month of March. We won't find out till this time next year, January, probably, but depending on when we do the appropriations.
Contractual, what's involved in contractual, just
The fire department, basically everything.
RG&E, you know?
Yeah, any repairs on vehicles,
Okay.
Pump tests, hose test, exact
Yeah.
hose,
State testing and things like that.
physicals.
Yeah.
There's a couple of physicals.
Yeah.
Folks like,
Thank you.
all right, building inspector. Personnel services, which is really what we pay Kevin, we up to $46,000, which reflects this year's expenses to date times the raise I factored in. Contractual, we took down a little bit because he doesn't really have those needs.
That's always a guess, because that's property maintenance goes in there.
Yeah.
You never know.
Ambulance service. This is all of their needs that is often offset by some money that comes in that'll be reflected in the income side.
So this will make the payments on the new one and stuff.
No, it'll wash out.
It'll wash out.
The new ambulance is gonna cost us money out of our budget.
So the difference between the 88 and the 105 is, what is it?
88 is what we budgeted this year. 67 has already been spent.
Okay,
And so we did some math and came up with 105 for next year.
That
That math
includes your increase with the medics that they gave us here a year ago or whatever, the fund brought up and that kind of stuff. And if the fire or the ambulance budget that they handed out tonight, we came out with 106, which that's the closest we've probably ever come, even
That's
close,
good.
but
that's good.
what that does include, we did drop repairs by on our budget anyways, by about $6,000 because when the new rig gets here, you're not
Shouldn't
gonna
have to
have
fix
that.
it. Right.
I mean, and that kind of thing. So that's just a guideline. That's a guideline for us. But like I said, ain't never been that close. I looked at that and like, well, that's pretty cool. So anyway.
Kind of right down the middle there.
And actually, Bill, we talked about, one meeting about the fee schedule going up just a little bit and what this year.
You mean as far as billing goes?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if we had any.
well,
increases yet this year.
what we decided in the ambulance meeting the other night was in regards to, sign offs. We started that we tried that back in November and I got attacked. Because, well, you've never done it before and it was $75. I talked with, we talked with the attorney. And the attorney said, what we thought about trying to do was, if it's a Village of Sodas Point resident and it's a sign off, we don't charge them. If it's somebody, if we go into Sodas or somebody from out of town, we do charge them. Matt says we cannot do that. You've got to do the same for one as the other. So what we did, we talked about at the meeting here a week ago, and we dropped it to $50 from 75, and we're gonna try it. Just another $5,000-6,000 a year with the amount of sign-offs we have. It'll go through medics and that kind of stuff, just to see where we end up. If we get beat up again, he said, take your licks. He said, if they pay you good, if they don't, you're not out anything, in that sense. So that's what we did there. As far as increase in mileage and that stuff, that will come when we do that, probably after July 1st. When we talk about it again, right now, we're trying to get other things set up, but yeah. But right now, we're in pretty good shape for like our mileage fees and stuff like that. I mean, North's getting $60-$70 a mile for their ambulance. But then we have to drive a mile. I mean, they're so
Yeah.
close to North Wayne that it's not like others that at $35 a mile, you're going to Strong or whatever. It kind of is in the wash. But anyways, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that explains it.
Okay, on to street maintenance. Personnel services went from 167.5 to 175. Equipment went from $2,500 to $30,000.
What's that?
That's replacing the Bobcat is what's being requested. This Bobcat is older than any Bobcat we've ever kept. And it needs new tires, which are a few $1,000s, and it needs some other service work. Greg got a quote from CAP. And it's worth $35,000 in a trade-in for a $65,000 CAP. Same thing, just with a different label on it.
So this is the brush pickup? Is that what the
They use it-
predominantly for, or?
No, well, this is the most heavily used piece of equipment we have. For brush pickup, they put the York rake on and they pull the stuff into the street and then pick it up with the loader.
Okay.
They also use this to turn mulch that we make and put around. They use it to brush the streets, clean the streets when it rains in the spring.
Okay.
They use it for a lot of different things. So again, this is just putting it in the budget. If you buy it, it'll come back with lots of details that we can respond to. But that's why this went up to $30,000. Chips basically washes out, but we do expect $134,000 next year. There's a revenue side of this that we'll see once we get there. Under contractual, in addition to garbage and RG&E and everybody else, Red would like to do some crack sealing of some of our roads so that they don't have to be repaved as often. That's about a $3,000 expense. We don't do a very good job of striping in the village. We have the county do a little bit, we do a little bit, and some of it just doesn't get done. So he got a quote to have everything done, which is about $3,000. There are areas that are not CHIPS eligible that need to be paved. The Lighthouse parking lot for one, and the part of Sill Road by your.
Have you seen that lately?
Yeah, it's a mess.
Somebody plowed it
Um,
really bad
parking lot that doesn't belong to Sodas.
at the lighthouse.
Uh-huh.
No, it belongs to us. A portion of it belongs to Sodas, the majority of it.
Well, I've talked to Scott about splitting some of this stuff. It,
Well, they do in kind a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we do
Yeah.
that. That's not an issue at all.
okay,
He's willing and we're willing, and we
Yeah.
do a lot of work for them and they do a lot of work for us.
okay,
So, that's why contractual is up $20,000.
That's up.
I don't think that gets everything done, but it gets more done. Highway garage. We just rolled the budget forward because it looks like we're gonna be pretty close there. Snow removal. Personnel stays the same at 7,500. We took the salt down because we haven't been spending it, and the county's working on a purchasing agreement for salt that if it goes through, could save us a lot of money. Street lighting we left alone. You know, it looks like we're not going to spend it all this year, and we aren't. But the street light project still has not closed, so we're not paying NIPA for that. Because all our street lights still don't work. We did get an update yesterday that the parts that were ordered a couple months ago are expected to be shipped next Wednesday. So
Almost it ain't got a tail and teeth.
It has to be repeated.
Weird. Participating in
Versus.
yeah, furnace is that one. It's got to be in the record.
It's like a,
I pass. As long as I can't go get raped from it. That's all I have.
All right,
Let's add that to the budget.
tourism. Looks like we're spending about $4,700 this year, so we'll just move that over.
What is the plan for that? I mean, I don't know that anybody's made plans that I'm aware of.
I don't have plans. My assumption was the same people would be back. I'm very open to looking at other options and alternatives if somebody wants to do that. But when we tried to do that before, nobody liked it, so.
And that doesn't cover the village visitor center, right?
$4,700 was the salary paid to those people that sit there.
That's what it, okay.
And that's
Just want
all.
to make sure I understood that was paid for.
Yeah.
Okay. Because last time we didn't do it and they got upset and you don't want that, so.
Yeah, I wish I could figure out a good way to measure money. Parks and playgrounds. We took from $15,000 to $36,000. The difference in the two is paying for the picnic shelters. We get revenue for that shows up in a different line when we get to revenue. So it's 4 picnic shelters
You intend on renting them?
Are we getting 4 now?
3.
3, whatever the number
Yeah.
is.
Well, the original was 4.
Right.
And I know wood has gone down. So
Right, it's,
The wood is all purchased and been paid for. We gotta get a schedule for this spring, because they need to be done by a certain time. We've met with the fire department last fall. They want to move the gazebo toward Leo Landing and stick it in that corner. And then put the picnic shelters evenly spaced along the
that's not
So,
so.
south, along the biofield. And that way, we haven't interfered at all with the ball field. And we can have electric and all, because the electric will start at the pole,
Yeah.
go all the way to the gazebo. So that's the plan.
So I talked about, even I asked our IT guy of having because everybody needs to charge their cell phones, and I'm just having some kind of something in each one of those so that people can.
Oh, you know.
have-
That look nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's close to the road, so all the restaurants can benefit from some takeout food, right?
Did we put up more cameras down at the there by the store? Somebody was putting up cameras and I thought maybe it might be others.
we put up a Wi-Fi hotspot, I believe, although I don't have confirmation that it's there. But I know he was working on doing that.
Because we bought cameras down there. didn't we?
They've been,
Oh, they are. all-
they've been,
So do those point towards Robbie Kyler's place?
Robbie,
Yeah,
No,
no, where do they?
the trees in the way.
it's the park area.
Okay.
They don't
We
go up.
We don't have anything that shoots at either that 4 corners or the 3 corners.
Not yet.
Not
We
yet.
may at some point.
Who monitors?
The feed is in the information booth. It will someday be here as well. It's all recorded.
There's an app.
Yeah,
We. Dennis
we
has
have
an app.
apps on our computers. Sure.
We should be able to put that up right on the website. At some point.
We might be able to do
Yeah.
that. We did talk about that.
So he's working on getting, because there's 2 cameras down there and then there's 2 cameras here. So they're working on getting all 4, because did you guys, we have the camera in
I know-
here.
I know that.
right,
Yeah,
That's
so then
good.
he's gonna try and get that, so it comes
all in one
all
place.
in one, yeah. But right now, if you look in the windows at the,
You can see.
the tourism booth.
And the software is pretty sophisticated. So if something happens at 11:03,
It'll,
we can go back to 11 o'clock and
Watch 5 minutes.
yeah, and there's
yeah,
pinpoints of different kinds of activity.
right.
There's all sorts of parameters you can set on the cameras. If we start to have different kinds of trouble. But one of them down there points. There's 4 cameras within 1 camera. So one points to the storage shed, one points to the bathroom, one's got the playground. Space in between. But you can see them if you look through the window.
The reason I was asking was what Robbie was saying was when they robbed after they robbed the grocery store.
Okay,
Oh,
so
the pit
Pit
stop.
stop, it's kind of a one-way in and a one-way out.
Well, pit stop and pit stop cameras are jumping.
Right. And if you had it aimed at that corner,
Yeah.
you might be able to pick it up.
The sheriff did view camera on the front of the fire department that night.
they also
They
took Bill's
came
footage.
here and we.
Yeah.
They took Bill's footage too, because he has one part that.
Yeah.
When it read, it's,
You'd be surprised how many cameras are down.
oh, there it is, lots in there.
And there's
Oh, yeah.
getting more.
Yeah, you don't
Everybody
walk
wants
far
to know.
away without somebody's got you on kid. I'll
Everybody's
never
got
see it.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, that's why I don't understand how they couldn't go to residents along the way and figure out something.
Not everybody records it.
They did, they went and.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, how they didn't get a captured
Piece it together.
image.
Quality of the images sometimes.
Yeah,
A community center. there's $1,000 in there for the contractual, which is mostly cleaning and, really something, it's cleaning. Celebrations, $11,000 is our firework contract that we signed earlier in the fall.
We're just gonna do one instead of two,
Yep.
just do a larger one on the fourth.
Your firemen are looking to kiss you, so are the EMS people.
Yeah, lots of organization. for that.
Yeah, last time, for sure.
Under zoning. This is paying the zoning board, right? And then there's $1,000 in contractual.
Did we increase anything last year for the minute taker and?
She gets an hourly wage and turns in her hours.
She's paid under these two things.
Yes.
Okay.
Under planning, $4,000 pays the planning board. $26,000 in contractual includes the LWRP consultant, which again, there's revenue on the revenue side to offset.
That's the slowest moving thing I think I've ever done.
BRP.
Everybody complains about them.
I know, it's not.
We'll get starting theirs and like, good luck, Lynn.
Yeah,
Storm sewers. Just left $5,000 in there because there is an area on South Shore that there's drains, but we have no idea where they go. So if we can find somebody that can help us figure that out.
Now, what about the proposed $90,000 sewer cleaner?
That's not, that doesn't come out of these
That's,
budgets.
oh, that's just gonna come right here, right from the water sewer budget?
Yeah, it comes from the sewer.
Okay.
There-
Did that
there is-
last time.
Yeah, you need to really think about them as three separate corporations.
yeah.
No, I just want to make sure that.
Yep. So we left $5,000 in there for that. Electric and power, we've consolidated the solar and all the RG&E into one place. I'm a little worried because we aren't spending a lot of money and RG&E's having building problems, but we did take it down.
Well, they did that to me last month.
I've done it to everybody.
Yeah, my RG&E bill was $900 this month, it's $200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Mine
can't
was
get-
700.
and you can't get them on the phone.
Yeah, my nephew Sean's was 3,300 and then they shut his power off. Because he has no clue if he called them.
Yeah.
Where to shove it?
He finally got a hold of
So
somebody.
he's not something we want to do in the park now.
That is
Park
awesome.
is out.
There's a way to.
Under community beautification, this is the flowers that are in the pots for $2,700.
Why are we still spending $3,000 every year for flowers?
They look really nice, but
That's a lot of money to put, you can't just throw a couple seeds in there?
doesn't work like that, Todd.
No,
Yeah, they do.
No, it doesn't.
I do them every year at my house.
They work really hard to make those flowers look really nice.
My
And
wife
it's
puts
just really nice when you have.
It's a lot of money for flowers. Yeah.
It is one of the things I need to pay.
who is,
That's
yeah,
right.
who is it that does?
That was the first one.
Grandpa's does them. under
Deliver them,
direction
and
of
someone else takes care
Oh,
Village Waters.
of it. Right, and that's why they look so nice.
yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, but that's the contractual is the money we spend from where
Do
we
you,
buy it.
do you want to plant the seeds in your
I'll
greens?
put some seeds in some flower pots, I'll do it for half.
You can't. You're on
I would
the-
work with the people that are in the garden first.
Yeah, no kidding.
Don't touch
kidding.
them.
I seriously think we should look for other folks, money wise, that's a lot of money for
They
flowers.
probably already ordered them in and then for this year. Or will that come out of,
No,
we've already paid for them or no?
no, we'll pay for them still. But I don't, if they've talked to grandpas, we don't.
The pots go there. It's kind of.
I didn't.
Yep. Shade trees, this is how we take dangerous trees down. This is also how we grind up all the brush we collect. And the balance there will probably use to out of this year's budget to grind our enormous pile of brush.
Wow, a lot of the people who went through December. So
Yeah,
A lot of people, have- yeah, lots of us.
It's,
well, and more trees just.
this is not, doesn't reflect what's pretty much. So,
Code enforcement, the $1,500 is to pay to mow people's lawns and things like that, that gets eventually put on their taxes. As long as the county doesn't play games, we eventually get it back, but we need a way to pay for it in the beginning. Looks like we've been lucky so far this year. Kevin's pretty good about working with.
Yeah.
So. Flood and erosion, this is where we paid for some ready work before. The $30,000 reflects what we think the quote will be to fix the pipe on Silk Shore Road.
You guys got quotes on that?
We're getting those
Awesome.
from discussion. Just with, replace the current broken pipe sections with the same size pipe,
From the pond to the.
from the broken part to the broken.
We're assuming full thing, or are we just assuming the part that's under?
They've all been down and done their research.
Okay, so they feel like they know exactly where the break is.
They know where it starts to get bad and where it starts to get good. But then there's more than one break.
That doesn't surprise me.
Nope.
And the girls.
Are talking to you?
Yes,
Awesome.
yes. And they may end up paying for whatever happens on their. We'll see how this all plays out. We've asked for 2 quotes from 2 different firms. Excavation and something, whatever you call it. Trenchless
Mitigation.
trenchless technology. Which we expect that quote to be pretty high, and I think that's what the girls are gonna want.
Because they don't want anything destructive.
Right. And so we may do it 2 different ways. We'll see.
They may have to pay the delta difference if they want.
And Christie indicated she was very willing to do that.
Good.
She may even want to hire the person, so she's in total control of what happens on it.
That doesn't surprise me either.
That's awesome.
But at least she's
Seems like a
Talking.
totally 360, but that's awesome. So,
well, she doesn't
she came
feel,
all the way around.
she doesn't feel threatened. I mean, she came after me saying, "Can't go on our, we're not going on your property.
Oh, wonder.
We understand your property's there. We understand what your needs are, and we'll respect it. But we need to find a solution."
Can't leave people in the
So,
No. It might have been a good thing they were there. I don't know.
and trying to do everything around her schedule is impossible. It changes at the last minute. It's too bad, so sad. Emergency disaster work, we left $2,500 in there. It's just if we have another flood or whatever. In terms of benefits, I don't think there's really any changes
Yeah.
here. Tracy went through and tried to vet them. First serial bond is the new plow truck, right? Is that the right one?
Thanks.
Yep. And then on the next page, the installment purchases the loader.
So we need to make note that this doesn't include a payment for the ambulance. We really don't. Probably should. It's not gonna come out of the ambulance contractual, it's gonna be, and it should be added here. We have to pick how much we wanna pay. It's not included in there. Hopefully we will find out. Sharon sent the application out. Find out, get a better rate.
Yep.
Use some of. A lot of times they'll let us, I don't know about the state though. I've always been able to, if I need to, I can push, making a payment.
Defer.
Yeah. But I don't know, I'm not
Yeah.
sure how the timing will Well,
We'll have to see what we can find out.
hopefully within a couple weeks, we'll know about that loan.
Yeah,
And the installment purchase is, that's a pickup truck, right?
No, that's the loader.
Oh, yeah, it's a song. It tricked me.
Mhm. It's not loader, it's the- That's the one.
Yeah, the loader.
There's the other thing, excavator.
Oh, yes, yep, you're right.
It's the new excavator. The
Um,
loader is the one.
Just to go back to the ambulance, the loan application, the loan period requested is 8 weeks.
Yep.
So to take the balance of the 158, 812,
Yeah.
divide that by 8, and that's gonna tell you what you got, where you're gonna be at contractually.
Yep.
Close to it.
close enough.
It should be put in there just so that we're covered.
I'm looking at it right now, and it's 158, 812, 50 divided by 8 is 19,851.
So if you put 20 grand, in,
Roughly 20,000.
you said 20.
Just for your general info. I knew I kept it right at the top for a reason. Just knew somehow that was gonna come out.
Okay, on to revenues. Real property taxes, we left at $600,000. Interest penalties on real property. Got the same. Sales tax distribution we raised because we've been doing better. One thing we have to remember is that the best quarters in the current fiscal year have already come and gone. We've been paid for those. We still do have 2 more quarters to be paid for, so. Put $200,000 in there. Utilities gross receipt tax is what, RG&E pays us. Franchise is what Spectrum pays us. Tracy and Melanie collect a little bit along the way. Ambulance service charges, this is what MedX bills out on our behalf and collects on our behalf. If you recall, we had $105,000 in expenditures, and saying we're gonna beat it by $5,000 and have $110,000 in revenue.
Good luck. Yeah.
Just more.
Dock fees we raised because Brandon's got more docks. We only charge fees for commercial docks. We expect NASC to give us $500 toward fireworks. They did that last year.
Did we ask for it?
Usually we don't have to ask, so I guess we have to ask.
Send a bill.
Well, no.
Invoices.
Actually, it's supposed to be based on the money that they collect, so if they didn't, they have a good year. Well, they stand at the 4 corner. I said,
The boot fund is there.
The fire department does one weekend and they do another weekend. or
Yes.
It was taken from the flower club.
Fine.
Sorry, guys, it's just a joke.
Yeah, you want to be careful picking battles and more.
The $1,500 in tourism is what the town gives us. The fire protection service is what the town gives us.
And that's basically gets rolled over to the, into the fire department, right? That
Right.
police-
That's the-
Yep, yep, no, I understand, yep.
Interest in earnings is a little bit of money. The $18,000 is the new cell tower monthly rent,
Which came,
annual.
yes, which makes it nicer. It
Yeah.
was just one payment, 18,000. Okay.
We're still waiting for Artie to power up.
Can't imagine why.
Wait for everybody to pay their oversight bills.
I think they want to get paid.
Yeah.
Licenses and permits. This is money Kevin brings in. We did not put anything for sale of equipment. We haven't really sold anything this year. We do have a surplus thing to vote on at the next board meeting, but it's not for anything worth money. It's all stuff to be donated. AIM related under miscellaneous local services is money we get through New York State. It hasn't really changed in years and years and years. Mortgage tax we raised a little bit, just based on what we've received in the last couple of years. Consolidated highway aid is the CHIPS offset. State aid and other transportation is the offset for,
I have to reduce that now. 60%.
yes, you do. This is the money New York State pays us to plow Bay Street.
Is that the $11,000?
Yes, yes.
We just got that.
You have to reduce it because we picked up the road, right? But we're putting money away to take care of that road in the highway budget, right? Or is it separate?
60% of one road.
They
Yeah, it's
reduced-
based on distance.
they reduced the down-
So-
It's solely based on distance.
11.
So they pay us to go from the four corners of the church down to Bay Street,
Down to the pit stop.
down to the pit stop.
It's part of the road that we didn't adopt.
Okay, so we'll still get that.
Yes. No,
40%.
we used to get $11,000 to go from the four corners around and
Okay,
back.
and now we own it, so we don't get.
So now we only get from the four corners to the pit stop and back. And that was 64% of the.
44.
Other home and community is money we get for the various grants. This is the LWRP and the picnic shelters. So when we're all said and done,
You need to add 20,000.
yeah, we need to add 20,000. We're
Oh, well.
Add 20,000 for where?
just, let me talk through it.
It's on this page, though, the last.
You see $45,227.
No,
48.
48,227 appropriated fund balance, second to last line.
We need to add $20,000 to that, so we'll be taking $68,000 out of fund balance to balance this budget.
it sure statement doesn't say that. But it says 0. Oh, you're down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appropriated fund balance is the line I'm looking at.
And the
In
plus
this year's
20.
budget, we're at $104,000 coming out of fund balance, and we're actually running a little bit ahead of that. The year before, we put 157,000 into fund balance.
So that's gonna be 68,227, is that what you're saying? Or adding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My only question, and I might be missing something on this, is we've had a whole lot of renovations and a lot of new businesses. How come we're still at a tax base of 600,000 when we should have had an increase?
The $600,000 is calculated by our tax rate times the property value. Property values went up a small amount, much
That's what
smaller.
I'm looking for.
They went up much smaller, and it was in all your bins.
Yeah, I gave that to you guys, the new numbers.
It was much, I think it was like $23,000 or $25,000 as opposed to, I expected it to go up a few $100,000,
I did too.
but that's
So
not what happened.
that was through. I figure that is through
I think that number will definitely. jump.
July of 2021. July of 2021. So anything that's happened after July.
There's a big lag.
There, there.
So
we're
think
gonna
about
get
it.
it.
You have to think in your head that it was,
Gonna take a few years for it to catch up.
yes, yes.
But anybody here will have an assessed valuation if it's a new house,
Only on a new build.
but only on a new build. But on the old bills with additions, they don't.
With additions, that's,
Yeah.
That's in there.
So, and Brandon's,
This isn't done yet, so his building is done, so that's been added.
Right, I
The
saw
docks
it.
and stuff added.
well, now I have a question, because I know a couple different examples. One I'm thinking in my head, somebody's had mentioned a business that was renovated and the tax rate stayed the same for 5 years. And that absolutely should have been reassessed at that point, because just due to the nature of the renovation, and I'm wondering, I guess I'm gonna hold the Nate, town service and see what the assessment was based on that, but, just thinking of that, in and of that stuff, that's one instance that this person, has brought to my attention. How many other people have done major additions over the last 10 years and not been reassessed based on that?
All
I
I
mean, I'm
can
not
tell,
looking to raise people's taxes, don't get me wrong, but
spread them out.
all I can tell you is Kevin provides all the building permit information to Nate every year. He just spent one whole day this week or last week doing that. So that Nate has all the current information, and that's what's supposed to be used by the assessor's office to change. the
yeah, I
assessment.
mean, let's say, you put a second floor on your cottage, wherever. And you have to put forward the plans, and you also have to have an estimated cost based on those plans to meet code. So those numbers are already somewhat plugged in there. From the amount of, things going on in the area, I just expect.
That's why I expected to see a very large increase in real
Yeah.
property value, and that's just not what we saw.
Would you say it's like 20,000? That new house up there should have made it.
Well, that's probably not in here yet.
Yeah.
That was
see, I
this,
think
that was
that-
last year.
Yeah,
But we should, they're gonna pay taxes.
Right, but he's saying it takes a while for it to go from
They're,
Kevin to
they're
this
paying
person. And then,
taxes.
I mean, that's 21 she's talking about.
we're talking.
We're
some-
3 years behind.
As far as the paperwork, but we should be getting the money.
It's
No.
gotta be
And
reassessed
no.
and then reported and then.
That is the cutoff. So anything happened after that, it doesn't, you don't.
It's not there yet.
reflected here.
It's not there yet.
reflected. It's
Takes
just
down
how
that
it's-
long to
That's
cycle.
how.
Okay, so when do we get that money? That money should come in, there should be some kind of adjustment. But that house has been there 2 years now, hasn't it?
No, the new one?
It's brand new.
No.
We just approved the guy's plans to do all that, not that long.
Was it?
Yeah.
Year ago. when they-
Right, but then
they built that.
6
Yeah.
months left.
It's not
Yeah.
included
So
in
it's
these.
included in the 600,000, but he still is paying taxes.
Oh, it's going in.
Yeah.
On the lot and whatever the assessment is,
That could be part of the 25,000.
Once he gets the CFO, he should have,
that's not the way it works.
how do we get it to work like
It
that?
doesn't.
You just change state law.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the money when you get the money.
No.
We can pay. We can pay. Doesn't
You
have to-
talked about the LWRP being slow,
Yeah.
it's kind of all blends into the same situation.
I actually need some, so. you guys can-
I think we is everybody comfortable with where we are?
Yeah.
We got loose ends to get more information on.
Yeah,
I do.
you're gonna send one of one of these or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so
Adjustment.
what are we?
Right.
Time-wise, 28. So you're gonna try and figure out something with the police, what else do we?
We'll see what we can get. I honestly don't expect to get much. To me, that's gonna be a project we work on this year, but.
I'll start looking at the state level.
Yeah, if we can do something sooner, great.
Yeah, we have a meeting on the 16th, right?
Yeah, and really, we should try to be finished up by then, so that on the 16th, we can schedule a public hearing first,
So you wanna do something the week of March 6th, but when are you leaving?
if possible.
I get back the 8th, I leave,
Perfect time to do it, the seventh.
yeah, I won't have to.
Sorry, Laura, I had to take that.
It's true.
I'm good that week, the 8th, 9th, or 10th right now, so.
I am good as well from what I see.
I'm good on the 8th, 9th.
I'm just, so what are we gonna come back with that day? Like, what
Any police update we have.
is that it? Is there anything?
I would think that would be about it.
Hard numbers on the ambulance.
Which,
You know,
probably aren't gonna get a lot harder.
Yeah,
Unless
well,
we can't get
yeah.
financing through the state, and then you have to go someplace else. And then you look at a different interest rate or whatever, but we ought to be okay with the state.
Yeah, I'm not convinced we're gonna have anything more to add to that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm just wondering if we.
If we want to do something with the police during the year, we can process, it's not easy, but we can change the budget.
Yeah.
Do you want to put a placeholder in there and if we don't need it, we don't use it? Or do
I'm
you
just
want to?
like, are we better off just saying we'll come a little bit early on the night of the board meeting?
Won't give us a lot of room to move, but
I don't,
We shouldn't have to.
Yeah, if the only thing you got is the police thing that you're really gonna chat about, and hopefully you'll have some idea.
Let's
of
do
the
this,
end.
our meeting's on 16. If there's any pertinent information, why don't we call it the 14th, which is 2 days before the
We
meeting?
can always cancel.
If there's any pertinent information, we'll hold the workshop real quick. If there's not, we cancel. You know what I'm
5
saying?
o'clock.
I'm good
5
with that.
o'clock on the 14th, tentatively, pending new information.
but at 5 again, 5
Yeah.
PM on March.
We'll keep doing these at 5 o'clock, somebody's playing pizza one of these nights. I'm dying.
So.
Okay.
you said 5, right?
Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
No, really.
Thank
very good. Thank you, guys.
I gotta get out of here. Talk to you tomorrow, Lord.
Oh,